What we got here is a rather rare bird. It's come off of a 1930 PS Arrow. It's an AC pump. Happens to be a Model A series, not a Model A car, but a Model A series. This particular one came out of the casting mold in March of 1929. This piece here, this is the dome. You'll see other ones on other pumps look like a giant thumb. Look similar to this. This type uses this round disc, and this is rather rare. Very hard to come by. A lot of places, a lot of times they'll be broken. They won't seal right. Anyway, it looks like this is a pump that I've done many years ago. And these use screws with nuts on the bottom of them. There's no threads in the body casting. This body casting is real fragile. Usually they'll be all cracked. But it's time for a rebuild. I think seeing as how there was no valve in here, I think the customer might have used it as a just as a flow through. Let's see if there's a valve underneath this one. Okay, there is a valve in there. It's this little octagonal disc. But anyway, the first thing you're going to do is mark the location of the top cover to know which way it goes back on. You don't want to put this on wrong. Now, these are very fragile. These ears, I've broken a few of them. And let me tell you, it's misery to get this back on. You have to drill it and pin it. Anyway, so in order to eliminate any problems with it, I made a nice little jig for it that holds it. This is what I come up with. I just had some stock laying around. And we just mount it in here. Snug it down, and it eliminates any problems or the possibility of breaking those ears. There's just some, you have to knock this pin out. You can't see. In order to get the linkage and stuff out of here, you have to knock this pin out. And it's, again, it's real fragile. I go very easy when I do these pumps. And let's start. We got to take these screws out. We'll take the bowl off first. If you look inside the bowl, Look at all the rust. That's not good. It's coming from the tank, obviously. Remove the bail, and we're going to take these screws out. You don't have to watch me do that. Okay, the last screw is out. Remove the casting. Get the gasket and the screen. This is ready to be blasted. Remove this nut. This is what holds the diaphragm on. If I'm not mistaken, this is a pretty hefty spring underneath this. Just be careful if you're doing this. The nut, the washer, and the hex washer. Yeah, it's not too bad. Just separate the pieces from the diaphragm. You're not going to use the diaphragm again. There's the spring. There's also a little copper washer. Now we're going to turn it over. We're going to take these two screws out. There's a spring and a cup underneath that. There's the spring and the cup. This is what they use for the arm return. There's also a gasket there. You want to take that off. Okay, this is ready for, oh, we got to take that arm out of there. Get a punch that just fits that and tap it through. Just be careful. Let's take this off of here. You're going to just kind of snake that out of there. Takes a little bit of flipping around. This piece is ready for the glass beater. This is the linkage. If you have to take this apart, which I think I will, Note how this thing goes back together. Note how you're taking it apart. They can go back together wrong and it won't work. So take a picture of it, draw a picture of it, do whatever you have to do. Make sure it goes back the same way. Just want to show you a list of a collection of what's going into this particular pump. These are all the screws, washers, filter screen, the bowl, and the bail. There's the arm. I replaced all the pins. There's the new rocker arm pin, the diaphragm, and the pieces that hold the diaphragm together. There's the valves and those springs that hold them down. Go into each one of those, and that spring and cup go underneath that cover. So now we're going to put it all together. Okay, we're going to prepare the fuel casting. First, make sure that this surface is flat. Make sure that this surface is flat. A lot of times where the bail holds on to here, people keep cranking it down and cranking it down rather than just replacing the gasket. They keep tightening it down and it pulls the casting and it'll end up being warped. It can be flattened back out again, but it's not easy. This one's got a little bit of a, I don't know if you can see it or not, where it's kind of bows out a little bit where it's been pushed, or pulled I should say. Once these surfaces are clean and they're nice and flat, we got to do this surface here and the seats for the valves down inside. The easiest way to clean them, or to make sure that they're nice and flat in there, is if you had a dowel, it's probably a 3/8, stick a little piece of sticky sandpaper on the end of it. I have a tool that I made for it, and there's a piece of sandpaper in there. Put it down inside, give it a few spins, and it cleans it up. You know, it's nice and shiny. What you're looking for is any irregularities in it, or if the thing has gone bad. There's another one that I made a tool for to do these two surfaces here. It cleans them up nice. Gets the job done. And then we can move on to the body. Let's put these valves in first. Hexagonal. Drop it in. Make sure it lays flat. Put a spring. Gasket. The spring will sit right in that. And we spin it down. Make sure it's good and tight. A little difficult to get a wrench in there. In fact, I'm going to use a regular wrench on it. I'm going to put this other valve in, same as the other one. Just make sure it drops down flat. Put the spring, gasket, and the nut. Make sure the spring sits in the center of this, or that goes down through the center of the spring. This one's easy to tighten up. And I'll get a wrench that'll fit in there. If not, I'll make one. I just modified a regular wrench. A little grinding. Machined it a little thinner. Fits perfect. Quick test. You should be able to suck air out, seeing as how this is the outlet, but not blow air in. You should have a lot of resistance going in. In fact, you can't blow air in. With the inlet, you're going to put the glass bowl on. Once the gasket, the screen is in there, and the gasket, and the bowl, and the bail, you should be able to blow air in and not suck anything out. It should be just a dead stop. Now, we'll put it on and try it. Okay, as usual, it worked perfect. Put the screen on first, put the gasket, put the bowl, and the bail on. Don't crank it down too tight, just tight enough so that you get a good seal on it. Now we can assemble the body. Okay, in order to get we got to get the arm through there, and all this mess. Slide it in through. It'll turn the corner, and slowly go down inside. Now we're going to line up the pin. Push it through. Now it's going to be sunk in a little bit. It's recessed a little bit in this end and in this end. And what you got to do is dimple the casting, because the arm will slide, the pin will slide out if you don't. Some people will fill it up with JB weld. It's another way to do it. But I use my chisel that I screw in the end on, and just tap it a few times. You want to cave in the casting. Do both sides. Now with this has been beat up so many times, I think I'm going to do the JB weld part and fill this in and fill that in. We'll do that now. And we're back. Ends are all plugged. JB weld all set up. Now we can put the rest of it together. There's a little copper washer that fits on this stud. And I think I'm going to put this back in that little jig that I made. So hang on a sec. Now that we're mounted in the jig, it's a little easier to work on. Oops. Drop that copper washer on. Spring. Small cup. Would have been easier if I put that other piece on. But diaphragm. The bigger washer. The hexagonal shaped washer. The lock washer. And the nut. line up the diaphragm with the screw holes, and snug down this top nut. In fact, I don't like the way that's large like that. I'm going to get a shorter nut. I'll be right back. Okay, I replaced it with a thinner nut, the jam nut. Snug it down. Hang on to this plate. Make sure your diaphragm stays lined up with the holes. And mine's off a little bit. I like it to be comfortably in the center and not have to twist it. Just like that. Look for your index mark. Mine is over here. So this came in this way. And I should have done this before, but we'll get the screws through the casting, through the diaphragm, and through the body casting. Now, most pumps have threads in the bottom. These particular ones don't. They use a nut and a washer. Which can make things a little difficult, as you'll see in a few minutes when it comes time to tighten everything up. Get as many of the screws through as you can, preferably every one of them. Put the washers on, put the nuts on. Don't tighten everything up. Leave it loose. I'll put the rest of them in, I'll come back. Now that all the screws are in, all the nuts are on, the washers, now we can tighten it down. First thing is to pull that arm so it's all the way as far as it'll go. This is what I was talking about, a little difficult, because you have to hold the arm, hold the nut, tighten the screw. It's a little difficult to do with one hand. So we're going to do this. Normally I'd just ask for somebody out front on the counter to come and help me. But everybody's busy. Tighten down all the screws. We don't want any leaks. Double check them, make sure you didn't forget any. Make sure they're all good and tight. Just keep in mind that they are small 1032 screws. You don't want to break them. This is a kind of a quickie test. Pull the arm up, block off the outlet, let the arm go. With the arm relaxed, block off the inlet, and work the arm. You should feel suction there. Okay, the last thing to do is to put on the bottom cover or the top cover, depending on which way this thing sits, and it'll be done. Well, in order to do that, I've got to take it out of that jig because it just won't fit. Figure out which way the gasket goes. Put the spring cup down inside. Put the spring on. And you'll say, which way does this cover go? Well, if you look at the spring, you'll see that it's closer to the arm than it is to the back, which you can see this here. Line up the screws and tighten them down. This spring here controls the arm and keeps it in contact with the cam lobe. If not, what would happen if you eliminated that spring? As the engine is running, it would be throwing the arm against the free play, and you'd get a lot of noise in it. This free play here would be just flopping back and forth. So, this baby's ready to go back to the customer. Got to put a gasket on here. Most pumps, part number is stamped on this flange going around here. On these Model A pumps, or Series A pumps, they stamped a number in here. And it's been worn so much I can't even read it other than a 5 and a 0, but there's more to it. But there's only one kit that'll fit these particular pumps. So if you call up and say you have a 1930 PS Arrow with a Model A pump, and if you happen to give them this particular part number, very easily give you a kit for it. Would be our number FPA 18. Okay, we're ready. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe, comment, let me know how it goes. Thanks.